Tonight, a special edition of World News Tonight. Chilling new details now emerging in the horrific elementary school shooting here in Uvalde, Texas. This small community now consumed in grief tonight. 19 children and 2 teachers killed at Robb Elementary School. Many of the victims just 10 and 11 years old. Tonight, what we have now learned about the 18-year-old suspect, a high school dropout here. The governor revealing the alleged gunman sent 3 private messages on Facebook just before all of this began to unfold. First about shooting his grandmother and ending with, "I'm going to shoot an elementary school." Tonight, authorities retracing his steps from his grandparents' home to the school, how he got inside and where he went once he got in, barricading himself in a classroom and opening fire. The suspect armed with an AR-15 style rifle, ultimately killed by police. And tonight, investigators say the suspect turned 18 just 9 days ago, and that he bought his AR-15 style rifle the next day. Then another one just a few days later. And 9 days after his birthday, he was here at this school. We are now learning more about the children tonight and their 2 teachers. Some of the children getting end-of-the-year awards the morning of the shooting. Some of their parents, their loved ones, were at the school not knowing it would be the last time they saw their children. And tonight here, my interview with a young father, the video he showed me of his daughter fishing with him, and what he's vowing to do tonight in honor of his daughter. Also tonight, we have learned how long it took to take down the gunman after his first encounter with police here in Uvalde. And the officers inside the school, Border Patrol, sheriffs, police. Now we have learned a sheriff's deputy in that school helping to confront the gunman lost their own child in the shooting. Maria Villarreal, right here in Texas with us.
From ABC News, this is a special edition of World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from Uvalde, Texas.
And good evening tonight from Texas. We are here in Uvalde, a community in mourning. The mass shooting at the elementary school right behind me here, leaving so many parents, so many families without their sons and daughters. 19 school children and 2 teachers were shot and killed. Tonight here, we honor them, their names, their stories, the awards given to some of the students just hours before the shooting. This is the 2nd deadliest school shooting in U.S. history now after Sandy Hook 10 years ago. Tonight, new reporting here on the 18-year-old suspect, Salvador Ramos. In fact, he turned 18 just 9 days ago. And the next day, authorities say he bought his first AR-15 style rifle. Days later, buying his second. And then a little more than a week after his birthday, showing up at the school right here behind us. Tonight, we've learned in the hours before the attack that he sent 3 private messages on Facebook signaling his plans. Tonight, the memorial growing outside Robb Elementary School. The school year has now ended early. A choked-up superintendent revealing the news that the year was over. We now know the rampage began here at the suspect's grandparents' house, where authorities say he shot his grandmother first. Then they say he took his grandparents' truck with no driver's license, crashing it near the school here before making his way inside. We have also learned that all of the victims were in 2 adjoining classrooms, the gunman barricading the door. And we have just learned it's now believed he was in the building anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour before being taken down. Parents, of course, came running, looking for their children, looking for answers, many waiting until the midnight hours before getting official word. A massive show of law enforcement here, and most of the children eventually taken to the local civic center to be reunited with their families. But that's also where families waited for the children who did not come home. Officials asking those parents for DNA samples as the night wore on to help identify the children who did not survive this. Tonight here, the faces of the fallen now coming in. Some of the 19 school children who lost their lives and the 2 teachers who died trying to save them. Of course, the question here tonight were warning signs missed, and this evening across this country, a call to act. But we begin tonight with what played out at the school right here behind me and the children in that classroom.
Tonight, we're at the scene of the 2nd deadliest school shooting in American history as we learn more about the victims, 19 elementary school students and their beloved teachers. A Texas community in mourning as the governor says the gunman warned of his plan a half hour before the attack. Tonight, the fast-moving development in the investigation and the remaining questions tonight, including what was the shooter's motive? The desperate search for answers, parents forced to wait hours, dropping their kids off in the morning, later giving DNA samples to identify loved ones. remembering the victims, treasuring the memories of the 19 innocent children and 2 teachers killed in yet another mass shooting in America. Gun violence epidemic, the staggering numbers of deaths and school shootings in the years since Columbine. Plus, a debate on gun legislation in the age of partisan gridlock. And anguish in America. We speak with Angel Garza after the loss of his 10-year-old daughter, A-Marie.
I just want my baby back.
This is the CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell, reporting tonight from Uvalde, Texas.
Good evening on what is really anything but a good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Tony Dokoupil, in for Norah, who's recovering from COVID, and tonight we are here in Uvalde, Texas, a community shattered by one of the deadliest school shootings in American history. 21 victims, 19 of them innocent children. They ranged in age from 10 down to as young as 8. One victim described by family as the sweetest little boy I've ever known, so full of life. Others loved baseball, they loved swimming, loved dancing to TikTok videos. In other words, these are your everyday American kids, extraordinarily loved and now extraordinarily missed. Their parents tonight adjusting to a new reality, to lives that we all know will never quite be the same. And now this roughly 15,000 person, predominantly Latino community is also added to the list of places you know by heart. Columbine, Newtown, Parkland, places scarred by gun violence, their children murdered in their own classrooms. And of course, the question tonight, when will it stop? We have a lot of news to get to. We're going to begin with CBS's Janet Shamlian, who's here to start us off. Janet, good evening.
Tony, good evening to you. New details emerging tonight on how this massacre unfolded, and they are chilling. The gunman firing on a classroom full of 4th graders and their teachers. They had just been celebrating the end of the school year, but suddenly they were trapped with nowhere to go.
Tonight, a special 1-hour edition of Nightly News from Uvalde, Texas, site of a horrific elementary school massacre. The small town in shock. 19 children and 2 teachers gunned down in the same classroom. The chilling new details, the warnings the 18-year-old suspect posted on Facebook just minutes before the rampage. Police saying he shot his grandmother, crashed a truck, then entered the school, barricading himself inside a classroom and opening fire with an AR-15 style rifle. The terrifying moments. Did you hear the shooting?
2 times, yes. But then they sounded like bangs, but then our teacher kept saying, no, they're just fireworks.
A tactical team arriving, breaching the door and killing him at the scene. The growing questions, what was the motive? Also tonight, the victims, many just 10 years old or younger. One girl shot while calling 911. 2 cousins among the dead. The teacher killed while shielding her students. What we're learning about the lives lost and the stunning moment.
Shooting is right now, and you're doing nothing.
Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott's news conference on the shooting interrupted by Beto O'Rourke, the Democrat challenging his re-election bid. O'Rourke escorted out of the room. President Biden today doubling down on demands for tighter gun laws. Will Congress take action? Our team in Uvalde with complete coverage of this Texas tragedy.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, reporting tonight from Uvalde, Texas.
Good evening from this city of sorrow, Uvalde, Texas, a small town that has become yet another landmark for mass murder in America. The bloodshed, the suffering we have seen so many times before. As we come on the air tonight, here's what we know. The gunman killed 19 children here and 2 teachers in yesterday's attack. All of them, we've learned, were inside a single classroom here at Robb Elementary. Police say the 18-year-old attacker barricaded himself by locking the door, then started shooting until law enforcement officers broke in and stopped him. Today, the governor said that just before the shooting, the gunman had warned online that he had shot his grandmother and was going to attack a school. He had bought 2 AR-15 semi-automatic rifles legally just days before. There is still no motive, but there may have been warning signs. Tonight, our teams are covering every part of the story. We'll hear from the president and loved ones of the victims, including one family I spoke with late today.